There's a revolution happening right now, but it's not happening on our screens or in some far-off lab. It's happening inside our own cells. We're about to dive into a technology that can literally rewrite the source code of life itself. This is the incredible story of gene editing. And believe it or not, we are living through one of those moments right now. But the breakthrough isn't happening in silicone, it's happening in our biology. And this isn't science fiction anymore. This is the new reality. So to really get a sense of just how huge this is, think about the internet for a second. The entire thing is built on a fundamental protocol called TCP/IP. Well, biology just got its own version of that, a foundational piece of tech that changes absolutely everything. And it's called CRISPR. Okay, so what is CRISPR, really? At its heart, it's actually pretty simple to wrap your head around. Just think of the find and replace function you use in a document. CRISPR is basically that, but for our DNA. It gives scientists this incredible ability to go into the source code of any living thing, find a very specific sequence, and then cut, remove, or even replace it. But with this kind of power, well, of course, there are some massive implications. This technology, it really has two very different faces. One of incredible world-changing promise and one of pretty profound peril. First, let's talk about the incredible promise here. I want you to meet Victoria Gray. For her entire life, she suffered from sickle cell disease, which is a really painful and debilitating genetic disorder. But then, scientists used CRISPR. They edited her cells to correct that one faulty gene. And the result? It's just incredible. She's now pain-free and living a completely normal life. This isn't just a treatment that manages symptoms, it's a cure. But then, you have the other side of the coin. Back in 2018, a scientist secretly went ahead and edited the DNA of twin human embryos to try and make them resistant to HIV. Now, he claimed his goal was to protect them, but he completely ignored all ethical rules and guidelines. This sparked global outrage, and he ended up in prison. This whole event just proved that the line between healing a disease and, well, enhancing a human being, it just got really, really blurry. And look, this frontier is just exploding. This stuff sounds like pure science fiction, right? Erasing viruses from our cells, creating mosquitoes that can't carry malaria, designing crops that can survive a drought, even making pig organs that can be transplanted into humans. But this is happening in labs today. The future is definitely arriving faster than any of us think. Okay, so it's really important to understand that not all genetic modification is created equal. There are a few different ways to do this, and the differences between them are super important for figuring out where this is all going. You can basically break it down into three main approaches. First up is gene therapy. That's where you add a totally new gene. It's kind of like installing new software on your computer. Then you have gene editing, which is what CRISPR does. That's more like going in and rewriting the actual source code. And then there's the next step in the evolution, base editing. This lets you change a single letter of DNA without making a cut at all. And that third one, base editing, that's the next generation. That's what we're really going to dig into now, because it was developed specifically to keep all the amazing promise of CRISPR while getting rid of a lot of the risks. So how does it work? Okay, imagine you get your results back from a service like 23andMe, and you find out you have a tiny genetic typo that's linked to a disease. Traditional CRISPR would come in like a pair of scissors, literally cutting your DNA to try and fix it. And that works, but it's risky. You could accidentally cause other mistakes. But base editing? It's more like a pencil with a super precise eraser. It just goes in and chemically swaps that one wrong letter for the right one. No cutting required. And that's the whole ballgame right there. That's the key. By avoiding those big double-strand cuts in the DNA, base editing is potentially so much safer and way more precise. It's basically a much, much cleaner way to do surgery on our very own source code. And that is a massive leap forward. Okay, so having this amazing tech is one thing, but turning it into a real-world cure that people can actually get, that's a whole different ballgame. And that brings us to the business side of this whole revolution. $2 million. That's the price tag for the first FDA-approved CRISPR therapy for sickle cell disease, per patient. And that staggering number just immediately brings up a huge question, right? How can you change the world with a cure that only the super rich can afford? Now, that price tag, it's not just pulled out of thin air. For one, this is a one-time permanent cure, not a drug you take for the rest of your life. But the bigger reason is that the process is incredibly bespoke. I mean, you really have to think of it like a handcrafted procedure for one single person. They take your cells out, ship them to a lab, edit them, run all these quality checks, and then ship them back to be put back into your body. It's a huge logistical and scientific effort. But here's the good news. Like pretty much all new tech, the cost is expected to come down. This is the roadmap for the next decade or so. We're right in the middle of those critical human trials. If that goes well, we could see the first approvals in the late 2020s. And then into the 2030s, we'll hopefully see the process scale up, costs come down, and this starts to become available in major hospitals. So let's take a look under the hood at one of the pioneers here, a company called Beam Therapeutics. And their financials, well, they tell a pretty classic biotech story. They've got a ton of cash on hand, over $1 billion, so they have plenty of runway. But they're also burning through over $100 million every single quarter. They're not actually selling a product yet. They're spending a ton of money to build the platform that will create the products. And this is where it gets really interesting, because we're seeing a fascinating strategic battle play out. You've got Beam's main rival, Verve Therapeutics. They're the specialist. They are betting the entire company on one single massive target, a cure for high cholesterol. A huge market, but it's an all-or-nothing bet. Beam, on the other hand, is building a platform, a toolkit that could be used for tons of different diseases. If one of their treatments doesn't work out, they have plenty of others in the pipeline. So that brings us to the final question. You've got Verve, who might be faster and win that first big race to market. But then you have Beam, who's trying to build the entire highway that everyone else might eventually drive on. It's that classic business dilemma, the focused product versus the versatile platform. So who would you back? The focused sprinter or the company building the whole system? It's a huge question, and the answer is probably going to define the future of medicine.